Hi, I'm HME News Executive Editor Mike Moran, and I'm here today with Invacare CEO Mal Mixon. We're going to talk a little bit about Invacare and then the state of the industry and where it may be going. But Mal, 30 years ago today, not today, but this year, you bought Invacare, and it's been a long trip during that time. But what was it like when you bought it? What was it that you saw in the industry at that time that wanted to take such an investment and risk in acquiring a company?
Well, I was 39 years old and really felt I was ready to run a company, and I hadn't been able to achieve that in industry, but I then decided I'd try to buy a small company. And frankly, I looked in a number of industries and happened to discover that Invacare was for sale. And I had $10,000. I love to tell the story that I bought it for around $8 million, so all I needed was $7,990,000.
Yeah. What was it that attracted you to this industry? When you looked at the industry, what did you see?
I had competed in healthcare a good part of my professional life up to that point, and I was with a Cleveland company called Technicare that invented the CT body scanner, and we were in high-tech medical products, ultrasound, CT, digital x-ray, magnetic resonance, and so forth. We competed with Siemens, GE, Picker, a lot of the big companies. So I was accustomed to competition. I knew something about the medical marketplace, and I stumbled onto little Invacare, and at that time we faced a monopolist, Everson Jennings, that had most of the wheelchair market. And they were a pretty sleepy company, I think, very, very comfortable. And we were hungry and wanted to grow the company. So I spent a lot of time out in the field talking with my customers. Many are at the show today. And they would basically tell me how screwed up Invacare was. And I said, well, gee, if it had been such a great company, I couldn't have bought it for $8 million.
That's right.
So we went about the fundamentals of business, trying to build better products, design better products, hire a better sales organization, give better service. And our strategy hasn't changed substantially from the principles that we think are important to building a good business. And you can fool customers once, but generally not the second time around. So the importance of quality, performance, having good price points, good deliveries, having a great sales organization to represent the company. All are key.
Are there things that Invacare? Invacare is a big company, the biggest in our industry, one of them. What can providers learn anything in moving forward with their own business from looking at how Invacare grew?
I think I continue to learn from large companies and small companies, and sometimes the innovators are the ones that really cause change. And I think Invacare has been very innovative in a number of ways. I won't spend a lot of time on that, but I try to keep our company entrepreneurial and to talk about guiding principles and directions and strategy, but let my people take the ball and run with it and have the freedom and the speed they need to make change to adapt to the environment they're in. And we've seen tremendous change over the 30 years I've been in the business. I remember the day the Taiwanese entered the business. I remember, names that were like Hallmark cards almost, Everson Jennings, Smith & Davis, Lumex, Mountain Medical, some of those names, and they're not the competitors anymore. And then we had Sunrise and Graham Field, and Sunrise has made a lot of changes, and so we have new competitors seems like every 10 years someone new emerges, and we have to change how we do things, but there are certain things we don't change, and those are the guiding principles. So to answer your question, I still think of Invacare as a small company in a lot of ways because we're still flexible and we can move and make change, and we don't have to deal with large committees and bureaucratic decision making. And the nice thing about a small company, you can be light on your feet and move and do things and be innovative, and that's what large companies have to guard against as they get larger. They don't get bogged down.
They don't get bogged down and don't forget those principles.
Right.
Yeah. How about if if you were the same, if you were 39 years old today, and a company like Invacare was on the market, would you still look at this industry and say it's a good place to be?
I think healthcare is the best place to be. I think all Americans are frustrated by this so-called healthcare reform and what it really means and how it's going to impact them. And I worry that, we're going to create a bill that's, dealing with all special interest groups and not really making much change in our healthcare system. But I happen to believe we have the greatest healthcare system in the world. I don't, a lot of people are saying our healthcare system is all screwed up. I don't believe it is.
Yeah.
And I believe we have the best healthcare. Americans demand instant healthcare. They're not willing to wait 3 or 4 months to stand in line.
That's right.
And our demographics of our country are totally different than, say, Finland, or, we have a lot of immigrants. We have people coming from walks of life that aren't necessarily disciplined in their healthcare habits, what they eat, the smoking. 40% of deaths today in America are caused by obesity, smoking, and inactivity. So if we lived better lives and took care of ourselves, we'd have less short-term healthcare problems, but in the long term, the longer you live, we're going to have more healthcare expenditures.
That's right.
So it's a misconception for American people to think that healthcare costs are going to go down.
No.
The cheapest form of healthcare is a casket. And we used to die in our 30s and then our 40s, and now we're living much, much longer. And in fact, many doctors are saying we're going to live into our hundreds before too long. So that's a lot of healthcare. And I happen to believe that home care is, the term we use, trifecta, but it is the lowest cost. It's where people want to be. They want to be at home with their loved ones, their pets, the environment they know. The infection rate, much lower in a home care setting than when you're in a room with hundreds of other people that somebody's going to be ill. So outcomes are better at home. Costs are better at home. It's what people want, and they've got to be somewhere. So other than these frustrating actions like competitive bidding, which is sounds like a wonderful word to the government, but it's a horrible program that CMS has devised. And we've got to keep fighting to correct these things, but fundamentally, a great business. People are going to live longer, they're going to need home care, and I think Invacare will be just as exciting the next 30 years as the first 30 years. I won't be there for all of that, but I hope a few more years. What would you
be, just a piece of advice for providers going forward in these troubling times, what would you tell them?
I would say, first of all, get your house in order, run an efficient operation, establish good credit with your bank and your suppliers, because when all this comes down with competitive bidding, the people that have the financial strength and the financial wherewithal to carry through and not only survive but thrive are going to be the winners. And Invacare is focused on paying down debt, and we're going to be very, very strong. And secondly, I think you can't always be all things to all people. You got to decide what parts of your business can you really do well in and make money. Invacare's had to face up to some of those things, and we've had to make some tough decisions. So you want to have a strong team. You want to be financially, very strong, and be experts on your billing practices. And a lot of companies don't get it right the first time. They, like a do loop, they keep processing this stuff. And so getting good software installed and processing your claims. Yeah, and try to be less and less dependent on Medicare. Invacare keeps looking for ways. What else can we get into that makes us less dependent on any one source of funds?
That's right. So, all right, Mel. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay.